Man, y'all know the face, y'all know the name. Y'all tuned into the World's Realest Podcast, Talk Ain't Cheap Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Mr. It's a Movie, Cletus Real Talk. And I got a special guest here with me. In traditional Talk Ain't Cheap fashion, I do not introduce my guest. I feel like it's very lackluster and unimpressive. So I'm going to let my guest introduce himself.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Jahtiek Long AKA Sir Clifton, but everyone calls me Ja, and I prefer that, you know?
Welcome to Talk Ain't Cheap Podcast, brother.
Thank you.
How you feeling today?
I'm feeling real good. It's Friday, you know. Honestly, it feels good because me and you have been talking about this for a hot minute, and it's really dope because, like, Cletus, you're a good dude, and I've known you for years, and we've known each other for years, but we haven't had too many sit-downs and as long as we've known each other, so I also very much appreciate this as an opportunity, you know, because always see each other like build it and like passing, you know what I mean?
Most definitely.
So yeah, no, I'm doing really good. It's like, you know, it's really dope, and I'm glad we were able to do this, you know?
We sipping tea with the peace cup.
Yeah.
Hashtag peace cup.
Peace cup. And then I got the one from my homie gave me from Housewarmers. Welcome to the shit show.
Welcome to the shit show. I think we might name the episode Welcome to the shit show.
You know?
So I've known you since high school.
Yes.
Because of prom jam.
Every time I see you, I think about that. We ain't even go to the same school.
Now, you went to New York, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you went to Wagner or Port Richmond?
I went to Wagner.
Yeah.
So I remember from prom jam when we was modeling in the Staten Island Mall.
That is such a wild, funny ass story.
How did you even get involved in prom jam? Because were you popular back then as well?
I don't know. I don't think so. You know what's crazy? I've been a consistent vibe, but I think, like, you know, in Newdorp, I was just me. I was like, I knew people. I would say hello to everybody, but I don't think I was popular. And also senior year, I designed a senior hoodie, and so it was beef. But people didn't really like it, the senior hoodie. You either with it or against it. And so for some people, they really did not like me. So it was, I don't know. But I was involved in student council. That's how I got involved, you know?
Yeah, I don't even remember how I got involved. I think someone was like, yo, you're popping, you should do this thing. And next thing you know, I did it.
Like, fuck it.
So I was like, all right, cool. And they gave me my free white loafers that I wore all through college.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
They gave us some free clothes after doing this. So I was like, yeah, why not?
Word.
So what's been going on with you? Like, you just dropped a project, A Line in Between.
All the lines
in between. I'm sorry.
Nah, it's all good.
And also, you have been just doing a lot of creative things. So I guess my first question for you is, what is it like to be a creative on Staten Island?
Interesting. It's very interesting to be a creative on Staten Island for a few reasons, right? And I think that there is the community is nuanced. The community is nuanced in Staten Island, where we have an interconnected community. So, like, a lot of people know each other, which is, like, you don't always get that in a city. Like, 'cause Staten Island feels like a big, small town at times. And I would say, for better or worse, and then also being a creative in Staten Island, I feel like it's hard because we exist. I think like Staten Island exists in a place in the arts in both like scarcity and abundance, where we have produced some legendary, like, you know, creatives and acts, but then we also live in their shadow, and we live in a place that is dramatically underfunded, and so we also export a lot of our talent, you know. So it's tough. It's tough being a creative out here. I get love, so I'm grateful for it, but it's also just like, it's tough out here because it's like, you know, sometimes some people have a crabs in a bucket mentality that feel like it's not enough for all of us. And instead of us sometimes really coming together as a collective front, people go into their, like, you know, either stylos or cliques or like development mentality that's just like, man, fuck the island, that ain't that. And it's just like, that ain't gonna do any of us a service. So it's very nuanced, you know, being a creative out here, because part of it too is like, sometimes you feel like you gotta leave in order to go further, and that's with anywhere, but in Staten Island, I feel like a lot of people feel like they gotta leave and then not really repping their city. Like, you know, one of the things I hate, I could cuss a little bit, right?
Go ahead.
You know, one of the things that really get me fucking tight is that, like, I hate, when you see somebody, they from Staten Island, and then they like, they starting it on and popping, and the bio, and then they got like New York, and
New
it's
York
just like,
City, NYC.
Yo,
which part of NYC are
which
you?
part?
Which NYC are you?
You in Manhattan? If I see that, I'm like, if you're not living in Manhattan, that's bullshit.
Man, if you were raised in Staten Island, you are from Staten Island. If you went to junior high school out here, you are from Staten Island.
That's what I'm saying. That shit get me so tight. And so like, then you also got people who aren't proud to be from here, who be on and popping and don't even claim it, and so it's like, and people be fronting, like, cause you went to school like off the island though too, right?
I definitely dipped out of here.
Yeah, and like, I know you be all over the place with people. You say Staten Island, and then as an artist though too, say Staten Island, but it's different, cause real New Yorkers be like, okay, cool. And then you get some people who are real New Yorkers that try to front, and then the tourists automatically, the transplants, try to automatically front like, oh, Staten Island, like, you don't even know shit. You know what I mean?
And people really from the city know like Staten Island gives it up crazy.
Yeah. They ain't really listen to Wu-Tang. I can tell you that much. Like, people just like, oh yeah, Staten Island ain't hard. I can't imagine. It's just like, or you think the hood niggas that was with the karate samples, you said that to Ghostface. You said that to Ghostface out of all these people. Come on.
I mean, even outside of just like Ghostface and Wu-Tang, it's just like Staten Island is just not a place where you want to play around with. Like, if you don't know what you don't know and you come out here, like, you can really get yourself in some real situations really fast.
Honestly, yeah, like all over the island. Because think of it this way, right? Say you like a quote unquote well-meaning like white liberal, and you have no idea about like you really just move, like say you move to like Tottenville, right? And you like one of the most progressive people, you gonna be fighting for your fucking life, and you ain't even a minority.
The Republicans don't play over there.
Yes,
they be really gangbanging over there, but they be rallying. You see what they did with the migrant shelter?
Yo, exactly.
I was like, I was like, we should never protest on Staten Island, because now they started taking it to the next level.
Bro.
They got police parades, and they got parades for everything now, and they got protests for everything. These white people got time.
Yeah,
it's like they don't work. I was like, when do they have time to work? These white people out here crazy.
Exactly. And then like I say, Staten Islanders, right? No matter what side, got smoke for everybody. Got smoke for everybody. Like, if you don't agree with someone on Staten Island, people gonna let it be known that they don't fuck with it, and it don't matter what color creed you are. And
they take it personally.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't agree with you, don't mean I hate you.
Yeah. And I feel like that changed a lot after 2016. I feel like 2016, like, it was like the Fire Nation attacking on some real shit. Because I feel like, it was always like, Staten Island always had tension. But I think after Trump, it emboldened people in such a way where it was just like, hey, yo, chill, bro. You very loud and vocal in a way that's dangerous. You know what I mean? But also, I just think that, again, the nuance of Staten Island is that, a lot of those folks are just loud, and they get like a lot of the spotlight. Meanwhile, there's a lot of people that kind of think similar to how we do, that it's just not getting the same coverage all the time, And yeah, it's why it's important to to capture these stories and these narratives and uplift them, because it's just like counterculture is real and counterculture is important, And also, people be like Staten Island, they gotta put more on for Staten Island and fuck with Staten Island more, because that's the thing too. I say as a creative and a lot of industries out here, Staten Island don't fuck with Staten Island as much, but it's the duality, because then Staten Island will either be really down for Staten Island or be like, nah, fuck that. You know what I mean?
I guess the question is, why do you feel like people from Staten Island don't really mess with Staten Island? I have my own gripes with it, but I'm curious as to why you feel that way.
I think that people don't really fuck with Staten Island because if you grew up here, right, and depending on where you grew up at, by any chance, where'd you grow up at?
I'm from the Harbor.
You're from the Harbor, all right. So you're still close enough to the ferry. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's still diversity. You know what I mean? Like, because then if like you go further down South Avenue, further and further, like, towards like Fun Station Travis and all that shit, it start to get real different. You know what I mean? Because it's
Mid
further.
Island and West Shore and Tottenville, Great Kill, Grasmere areas. Yeah. It gets very interesting over there.
Yeah.
South Shore is a very interesting place.
Because it's further from the city, though, too, and further diversity. So I feel like where you grew up on Staten Island also dictates your Staten Island experience in a little bit, depending on how adventurous you were. Because we grew up on a side where we inherited Manhattan and Brooklyn all in our backyard. You know what I mean? To be able to like, yo, we just out to the fair real quick. For some people, that's a journey. You know what I mean? In a way that, and that's not to say that altogether, but why I think Staten Island don't front with Staten Island, because I think that there's sometimes an inherent shame being from Staten Island, because Staten Island shames itself. Like, oh, forgotten. We grew up hearing that. And then also people from outside the city, from outside the borough, front on Staten Island, both internally and externally. It's this aspect of like, you're not good enough to be a borough, or like, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's the city's fault.
You gotta take a boat. That's basically what they always say. Yo, you gotta take a boat out there?
Yeah, with outlets. I'm sorry. I can charge my shit. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's relaxing.
I take the boat. It's a nice little vibe. You can take a nice little nap one day if you really want to.
It's not the worst.
It's not a bad vibe. I think Staten Island during the summertime is fire. Like, you have to get on a boat and you get to see the Statue of Liberty and everything. I think it's a nice little. If I have a shorty from off the island, that's a date.
Yeah, exactly. You say, yo, what's up? You trying to go on a cruise?
I'm trying to take you on a public cruise, baby.
I'll take that ferry for you. You know what I mean? That orange and blue.
You want to go see the Statue of Liberty?
Exactly. But I feel like part of it too, it's like, I think it's for folks, so the era of Staten Island we living in, right? The nightlife is not the same. Like the quality of life was better about like 20, 30 years ago. And no matter where you lived in Staten Island, there were a little bit more like neighborhood spots, like neighborhood bars and restaurant third places where like, you can look at Bay Street and like performance, like arts and culture reflects the society. When you can see a scene and it's vibrant and people know where to go, like, oh, you got to go here. And there's common consensus, it's usually on and popping. Staten Island, a lot of people don't know what's going on in Staten Island, and so we export a lot in a way where we're underfunded, and then that goes into the aspect of like, say if you like, looking, how like you got your artsy homies and you got the homies who appreciate that type of shit, but not like, they ain't gonna pull up, it's not really their vibe, and it's like, that's like okay, where you'll have folks, like, let's say like everyday folks, right? They don't know where to do on the island. They don't know where to go. They don't know what's popping. So they automatically assume, yo, this shit is whack. Like, when I was in high school, going to college, I was just like, I want to be out here. Ain't shit to do on Staten Island. What I look like being here? What am I doing? What's out here? Because also, I feel like our champions don't rep in a proud way all the time, or we just automatically are in the shadow of Wu-Tang. Wu has done a lot for the island besides like, just putting us on in that way. They give back. They built businesses here. Also, those men have done that like over 30 years. Who are the people who are our champions that are also unapologetically proud? Shout out to Pete, but also, and he is proud, but he's a comedian and that's part of his shtick. You know what I mean? He be
coming at Staten Island crazy.
He do. But we need people. We need more folks who have it on the back and the forefront, and also show a light to like get Staten Island to fuck with Staten Island. Too much of our initiatives of like, yo, we need some cats from off the island. We have like 500,000 people that live here. Why it seem like we always getting like, pulling from the same pool of like 3,000 people? That's bananas when you really think about it. So it's like, Staten Island got to show Staten Island more love, but people will be having like a crabs in a bucket mentality sometimes, or just be thinking like, and I used to have the thought though too, and sometimes I fall victim to it. It's just like, is it gonna be dope or is it gonna be on some Staten Island shit? And it's just like, that's not healthy. But it's also, you know what I'm talking about.
So when people say Staten Island shit, do you mean like, oh, everyone who's going to be there is from Staten Island? It feels like a high school reunion. The vibes are going to be it's going to be a good vibe, but it's not like anything new or refreshing. Is that what you mean? Because that's what I think of
that's
Staten
what I
Island
think.
shit is.
I think that is going to be on some like, because you know what it is though too. I think that is gonna when I would think about that, and I'm trying to discount try to distance myself from that, where it's just like, I think that like Staten Island got this bad habit of like some of the people that's really on and popping at times, like, and I say this for arts and culture though too, you know, and sometimes like the greater culture where it's just like we celebrate some of the most mediocre shit. And we don't allow the cats who are really making some quality work or putting in work and like, you know, businesses that are doing really unique things. We don't water some of them in a way where we just like, all right, cool. We'll let some of the wackest shit be in the forefront. Like, yeah. And then if you're not on board with it, it's like, you just hating. And then that be the shit sometimes that be like, I'm good. That's like you know, and equivalent, like some of what you said though too, but in the aspect of like, I don't mind running into folks because again, if you like from here, you know, Staten Island, big small town, you run into everybody you know from all different points of your life at different points of time. How I judge a place or judge a scene, a vibe, if I run into somebody who I always fuck with that I may have not seen for a minute, if I seen fucking cats that was just like, damn, I ain't want to run into you. That's a vibe check. That's what I mean, like, you know, and it shouldn't be like, that's what I'm saying, like, we got to reverse that. I got to be like, yo, on some Staten shit, and it's really popping. I think we, you know, when I used to hear like, yeah, exactly, you know.
No, I like what you said because I feel like it's definitely true. You know, it's tough to be a Staten Islander because of the fact that, man, like you said, I do think that we celebrate mediocrity here, and it's not because there's not people doing stuff. I just feel like the people who are actually doing stuff don't care about being like the guy in front of the scene.
Yeah,
like the people who are really doing stuff are really too busy worrying about the stuff that they're doing to concern themselves about being seen, being heard, be liked, be appreciated, being respected, all that stuff. And it's sad because I was talking to my sister about this the other day. I was like, the people who are doing stuff need to start talking more about what they doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people that be on their wave aren't the ones that's in the front saying, yo, I'm the dopest motherfucker out here. Yeah. I'm dope. Take a look at me. They just be like, I'm going to just keep doing the work, and those who need to see it.
Yeah, and a level of ego, though, too, where it's just like, you know, because I think that it's important to be humble and it's important to be modest, but sometimes, like, you know, like J. Cole said, sometimes you got to do it in front of these niggas the way that you do it because they act like you don't do it. But also part of it is like, give people their flowers. Give people their flowers, you know, and just putting people on to what's going on. I think because, like, you know, and I'm a huge believer of, like, art reflects a society where it's like, and arts and culture reflects the quality of life in a place where if you look at, like, you know, the arts and music scene, and I'll use the music scene, right? We have a very vibrant music scene, but, like, unless you looking, you may not really know where it is, and then, like, who's done what, who's doing what, and then there's microcosms inside of the shit in a way that's just like, I'll use the hip-hop on the island, right? Bro, it's crazy because, like, you know, we have like this drill sound, then we got like cats who like New York rappers, but then they don't always pollinate and cross connect. But then you have like this rock scene, a folk scene, and then like pop and all this other stuff. A house scene, there's a house DJ, like house DJs and stuff that's from here, but they don't intersect as a full music scene. So it's fragmented. Staten Island is so fragmented. Like, let me ask you this question, right? If you were to go to see a show, right, on the island, up and coming show, where are those three places?
I don't know. Up and coming scene on Staten Island, I don't know. Honestly, I'm on Instagram. I follow like Staten Island artists. I follow all these like little pages and stuff, and it's not like they're not doing a good job highlighting artists. It's just artists I personally don't think I care to listen to.
Same. At
it's
times.
like, and I know for a fact 'cause I dropped 2 albums last year.
I didn't know that.
It's on Instagram.
Damn, I ain't Cletus. Damn, I got shit.
Yeah, I mean, but this is this speaks to a larger issue with Staten Island. I spoke to the brothers from iBattle TV.
Yeah, Paul Mars. Shout out to Paul Mars.
OG.
Lex.
Yeah, I was talking
and
to
Lex,
them.
right?
Yeah. I was talking to them about it. I'm like, the problem is like we have an issue disseminating information on Staten Island. Like it's like if you're not following Staten Island Advance or SI Live on Instagram,
How you knowing?
You don't know nothing going on Staten Island as a complete unit. Like you don't know anything going on. It's like you said, it's fragmented. All the black people doing the black people stuff is either old as hell and they just doing it, or they're part of some kind of organization doing it. And if you're not affiliated with those organizations, you know of nothing they do.
Yeah, and then also to add on that, or it's like may not be your scene, but that don't mean you don't fuck with the culture. Because just because I ain't out here want to be at these drill shows, and some of them when they do happen, it's like damn, like even black experience is fragmented out in Staten Island, which is wild.
Explain that.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Because you know, Cleese, I've been putting together events for years, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's just like I had to check myself a few times. I had to ask a few of my like, you know, my friends, my brothers, like, you know, like where it's just like, damn, am I pandering? Like why like folk why like how do I gotta work as a black man? How can I get more people from my community that look like me to come out when I'm just making an open invite space? You know what I mean? Where then also part of it though too is just like knowing who's doing what. And like I've been working on this project called Join the Edge, right? It's basically amplifying, and you should fill one out since you grew up like, you know, in the hall below too. We still taking submissions as of the recording of this. Sade Powell, she's basically got a grant from Staten Island Arts where this like, you know, performer, like she's a performer and capturing the stories of like black Staten Islanders who like live on the North Shore. Do you know how hard it's been to get people to submit their stories? You know what I mean? Where it's just like, this is something that's amplification. But then also, it's just like, you look at a spot like Hub 17 at times, where it's just like, why isn't that like, you know, and the community uses it, but also, that's a black-owned business. Why isn't it used more? You know, and then, I don't know. I think the conversation sometimes around that, just for me, is that like, being younger and then always just be following the like, you know, the beat of my own drum, feeling like at times that I'm not black enough, and then it's just like, oh, you too white. We've abandoned that mentality a whole like way more, but it's also just like, shit, bro, growing up being a little bit different and then being in the scene doing like and finding it hard to find community gatherings as a black person. But then also I feel like at times, and I've had this conversation with folks though too, it's like if for me feeling like leaning into the alternative, it's even harder to find spaces where it's just like feel like I see people who look like me. Then even creating just spaces in general, it's like, damn, how is it that I'm not attracting more folks from that look like me into these spaces? What am I doing? You know what I mean?
I don't think it's something that you're doing wrong. I just think that the mentality of what it means to be black on Staten Island is just very skewed.
You know what I mean?
A lot of people from Staten Island who are black either never left, or if they did leave, they came back and they come back with a different mentality that's different than the traditional Staten Islander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're not just doing certain things, or their interests are just different. So it's not something I feel like you're doing wrong. I think all you can do is create the opportunities to do what you've been doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's that people from different spaces and walks of life, they experience different things, and it causes them to now gravitate to the things that they experience. So I don't think it's anything that you're doing wrong. I just think people are just doing different things.
But you know what it is though too? So it's just like, I've been involved in the non-profit arts and culture sector for about 5 years now, you know, and finding cats, you know, and like as somebody who produces art shows, music shows, and that vibe, where it's like finding folks sometimes be difficult, because sometimes I say the black folks on Staten Island, some of them like to do the New York, where it's just like, and if I'm finding artists on Instagram and I'm like trying to source it myself without somebody being like, yo, you know, you need to know, that's hard. You know what I mean? And then also it's just like, there aren't as many. There are mad artists and musicians on the island who are black. Where's the integration into these spaces as well? And that comes from both sides. You know what I mean? Because it's just like taking up space where it's like I had this conversation with shout out to Thriller, like he a producer from the Harbor. He with 303, he doing some dope stuff. Where are the spaces where shows, you got a lot of like hip hop music and a lot of folks on that side of the island, like I say, like from like West Brighton to like the Arlington, where cats are making noise like on the drill scene from Staten Island, but you don't see any shows over there, and I find that peculiar as a producer and as somebody who's just like, why are you not making these spaces too, just for yourself and your people?
I think the issue with the drill scene is that there's a lot of real drama.
And some real gangsters though too. So it's just real, like,
so getting them into a venue where everyone has to be cool, it's gonna take special people to do that, because it's gonna take people who are respected in these neighborhoods, in these communities, to come out and be like, yo, we're gonna do this event. Everyone gotta respect each other. Nobody gotta be beefed out. Nobody do nothing. Just respect the music, because in the drill music, a lot of these people are talking about other people who are from Staten Island. Yeah, they're not just talking about some random guy in Harlem. Yeah, they're talking about the dude who lives 15 minutes away that could come see them anytime, but just doesn't.
And that just be some real shit though too. And that's also something though too that, you know what that gets me to, like, because I think about, like, you know, this cat I know, like his name is Nick Alums, talented brother. He's in a rock band. He does his own stuff though too, where it's just like, we not a monolith, bro. And that's the thing, is when people try to paint, when you fall outside of whatever the quote unquote alternative, maybe like the counter or the mainstream, whatever experience, because we are not monolithic at all, and people try to monolith you, it's like, damn, bro, we got brothers doing all types of shit out here. And then it's just like, so it's just like, as much as there's Wu-Tang and all that though too, and that's the thing that gets me as well, it's just like, yeah, we could rap, we could sing. There's other people doing all different types of stuff, and it's just like everyone deserves that space.
We podcast out here.
Exactly.
There's a lot of podcasts out here. We have people who do knitting.
Yeah.
Crocheting.
Photographers.
You know? Dancers.
And people doing some fucking really dope and good shit that's on. What's his homie's name? It's like Pix the Pix or something like that.
Yeah, Pix, yeah.
Bro, I like, you know, because I've been super album promo mode. I ain't gonna hold you. I've been like, anybody that follow me, like, yo, what up? Hey, even if you don't listen, even if they ain't like listen to it or read the fucking message, they know I got an album out. So real business to consumer. Anyway, so like I have two accounts, the Sir Clifton account and then my Jahtiek Long account. So for whatever, and the Sir Clifton account was my original account, had since 2011. So there's certain account, and plus Instagram's weird with the algorithm, so it's just like I haven't seen his stuff in a minute, and so going and seeing it was just like, he out here doing it. Why is this not like? And he got an advanced article, cool. It shouldn't stop with one article. We should be having that person's name up in way more conversation, especially as a brother doing it. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, we gotta fuck with what we doing and getting that information out there.
I was gonna say something about the events, because I feel like I feel like the events is so out of touch. Yeah. Like, they need to hire brothers like you and me in the events. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many people in the community that's doing stuff that's not going to ever get that fair shake, because the events, I bet you if we go in their newsroom and look at who's in that newsroom, I bet you it's like nobody who look like us. I heard there's a woman that just recently got involved in the events that looks like us. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, it's like,
Not really. There's not too many.
And we have to cover the entire Staten Island. What's going on? Who's covering the North Shore? And he got art, and they got art and entertainment, art and styles, and
oh, they don't anymore. Advance doesn't have a real arts and culture. It's like lifestyle. It's not even like they so when Rob Bailey left, like, for the New York Post in like 2019. My homie Victoria Priola, she held it down for a bit. Now there's Lauren, who's there now. She does a great job, but it's not technically a section. which is kind of fucked up. How is it that we have the Impractical Jokers, Pete Davidson, Wu-Tang, BB Rexa, Mac Wilds, and like, you know, and a slew of other people who like, Ingrid Michaelson, who's like doing a play on Broadway, and we don't have an arts and culture section for our borough, for our own newspaper. We're one of the only boroughs with our only newspaper, but we don't have an arts and culture is one of our biggest exports, but we don't have an arts and culture section. Crazy.
It's crazy. Because it would be dope if there was like some programming and shows and even just coverage on artists on Staten Island. Like, think about what that could really do for somebody. And you never know who's watching and reading.
Yeah.
Like, that's been the biggest thing I've noticed. Is like, you just go to the right situation at the right time doing what you're doing. You never know who's talking about you when you're not around.
Yeah.
That's really bigging you up. Like, his podcast is dope, or his photography is dope. We need to get him involved with some things more. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, there's people probably hating on you too. That's just probably the name of the game. But
yeah,
there's probably more people that show you love than probably people hating on you.
And I think that's something I've been thinking about a lot recently though too. It's just like, I think one of the most cancerous things out here that happens to like creatives, and just not even just creatives. I think Staten Islanders is just like, there are sometimes way more people showing love in a lot, like I'll say like 95% cases, and you'll have people who hate on you, but I think that sometimes people take the love for granted. Like Drake, like there are people that love the shit out of Drake, but if you let Drake tell it, no one likes Drake. But look at his Spotify rap this year. You know what I mean?
I feel that's more like appealing to Wale.
Yeah, you get what I mean?
Yeah, someone like him who is super talented. People who mess with him really mess with him, but he feel like he not getting that love because he's not on every newspaper billboard, or he's not getting those major looks that he used to get. Yeah,
and it's just like, I think that is so detrimental, and I think we have a lot of that here. You know what I mean? And then connecting that. And that's for people who aren't just artists either, creatives, just like the aspect. I don't get people in these industries, because it's like a lot of things in Staten Island is pushing a boulder up a hill and it keeps falling out because lack of infrastructure, lack of funding. Where part of it too, we're talking about the advance, where on a governmental level, like we fund arts, we fund these type of things, but we don't even really have a real tourism department. Like it's like we do. And like Borough Hall, but it's like 2 people, and I knew one of them, and they left. And then part of it is like, that's a department. That's a real department. Tourism goes into like, you know, our economy, but then that also goes into showcasing your environment, like showcasing the community in these ways where we don't really get to see that in a way where it's like, because Staten Island. It's what controls the narrative of Staten Island. Even like you know how it's like people think of the island, they think of it like, you know, predominantly Italian and all that jazz. Where it's like some of that may be true, but even how we represent that is destructive. With sometimes in the advance and all that, where it's just like, damn, we ain't doing any.
Everything's the mob.
We ain't even doing. Yeah, we ain't doing nobody a service with how we represent ourselves.
Like half of them dudes is construction workers.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't talk about nothing they building. You just gotta talk about the mob.
Yeah, you know, where it's like, come on, man, and it's like Staten Island's not integrated, and it's that fragmentness, like being fragmented. I think it just seeps into so much, and then like, you know, people feeling like, oh, because it is a big small town vibe, but also sometimes we really just succumb to the, like, you know, the crabs in a bucket mentality when we all just need representation and a trusted source and champions who are like, nah, let's shake hands, and like, nah, we here, be proud, and we have some of those, but are they integrated? Are they inclusive? You know what I mean? Because it's like, we have the highest, like what that's having, like, you know, one of the highest, what is it, I think Liberians. Like,
we have the largest Liberian population in the East Coast.
Yeah, and then like, you know, Sri Lankans, and like, you know, in America, outside of Sri Lanka, I don't know too, like, I got a few Sri Lankan homies, and like, if I ain't grow up in Park Hill and go to 49, I wouldn't know, like, you know, people from, like, you know, the motherland, from Liberia and Nigeria, but it's also like, why I don't see these people outside more? You know what I mean?
Stay in Park Hill.
Yeah, but not everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a for it to be the largest.
You got Holy Mo. Holy Mo does what he does.
Yeah, shout out to Holy Mo though too. You know.
Yeah, so it's tough. You know, you got Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
but I also just mean in general.
Yeah,
You know what
definitely.
I mean? Just like, you know, in third spaces. You know, where it's just like some spots on Staten Island be looking like affirmative action. And it's just like, nah, bro, that's crazy to me. Especially being in the North Shore when they go to certain places and just like, yeah, this bar is mad diverse. It's like, it's kind of diverse. You know what I mean?
Like, what bars do you hear that people say are diverse? Because I don't know of any.
I'll tell you this, right? You know what I think had the most diverse I think the best representation of Staten Island, bar wise, it's not the same anymore. But that was like the UN to me of Staten Island. Even if I wasn't there when it was ratchet, but like, you know, just going there. Bootleg Mannings. Bootleg Mannings was true Staten Island. Where you had everybody, people from all parts of Staten Island. You had the whitest of white people, the hoodest of hood people, everything in between, Asian people, Spanish, Latin people, people from Jersey, just having a good time. You know what I mean? And that's the thing I've noticed about the West Shore. I feel like, or like the west side of the North Shore, is that like it's one of the most diverse and integrated parts of Staten Island just by itself. You know, like every time I've been to like Joe Broadway's, and again, this is just like one place, and it's like there's different pockets for sure, but it's like just see there's actual integration, not like, you know, like, oh, like, because I feel like as a black person, if I walk into a spot and I see 3 black people, it's not diverse to me. Like, you know what I mean? And that makes it sound like I'm just like, I'm looking at for my surroundings. So it's just like, you know, it may be a cool vibe, but if you see only like a handful of minorities in there and actually look like minorities, that's not diverse. That's affirmative action bar. Even if it isn't like, you know, not, and I'd say that as a joke, but the aspect of like, there are too many multicultural groups on Staten Island for certain places that look like they look and the neighborhoods that they are in.
Who do you think is responsible for that? Because I feel like a lot of people just don't want to go out to certain spaces because of the reputation those spaces have.
I think that it's actually, for better or worse, it's a double-edged sword. I think that safety is like, you know, risk factor is a very real thing that for like sometimes like for on the island, that if we don't go to certain places that we don't know, especially as like black folk too, and just as minorities, if we don't have like introduction, be like, nah, this is cool, you good over here, whether it might be on some like shenanigans shit or on some like, man, I don't know if this is like a racist vibe, on some real shit. I think it stops sometimes people from knowing that they could just go to certain places. And but then also there isn't outreach on the other end of these businesses. And again, part of that goes down to programming. Like I think that like for like, you know, in quality of life, for like nightlife, if you know a spot that's playing poppin' ass music, everybody gonna go. If it's just like on point, you know what I mean? Where, and you know this from parties. Think about it this way, party wise. If you go to have a party and you got a DJ, that goes through your lineup, whether it's your DJs or performers or people that like speak to different groups and different communities, you know you're gonna get people from all over because everyone just wanna have a good time. And I think that's part of it though too, is that making sure that like, you know, these spaces, it's part on people having a personal responsibility in exploring their own city, you know, whether it's home or New York City, and be like, yo, shake it up, you know, go outside, give it quality of life. You don't gotta be in the house. And there's like, you know, there are things to do, but then also it falls on just institutions in general, like, you know, in places and businesses where it's like people saying, oh yeah, like, you know, people ain't been coming out to insert event, insert bar, insert whatever. It's just like, how are you making this engaging for people who want to come to these things but just don't know? Because like how I look at events and programming is like, all right, I know I'm gonna have a certain amount of yeses. Who are the maybes that I don't know that want to go? You know what I mean? Because that's true conversion. And I don't think people think about who are the people who are the maybes. Because in Staten Island, I think a lot of things is about, I think it's about maintaining and not expanding. And we maintain certain places, but we don't expand the presence always in a way that is growth. And there are some places that, even as much as I might kind of hard on some of these places for their lack of like super quote unquote diversity, they are like places that the businesses themselves are trying, but they do serve a diverse population. It may not be on every night, but they do try. But again, there are places that don't try, and we do need more of it because there are certain businesses in predominantly black neighborhoods and like, you know, neighborhoods of color where you just see a lot of white folk. And then it's like, who is this for? You know, or then you got where the servers and like, you know, the people, the staff are welcoming to the actual community, but you know, that's not the intention of the business owner, you know?
It's tough because I feel like Staten Island just hasn't grown up yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a reflection of not just where we are, but also the leadership that we elect.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't had like a leader that really represented the people in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say represent the people, I'm talking about all the people, like the youth, the adults. I feel like we haven't had people who just, you know, just haven't spoken to the morals of what it means to be Staten Islanders and this full encompassment. So I think that's really one of the biggest issues that we have. It's like, who are we electing to put in positions to do things for us that we actually care for, that actually care about what we actually care about? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because it's tough. Like, imagine if we had a leader that was young, dope, that really represented the future of Staten Island. We have never had a young leader that's really like for the future of Staten Island.
Yeah.
Like, imagine like a borough president who's not like 80.
Bro, that would be great. That would be phenomenal.
That's like, yo, we want to make Staten Island this place for the future generations, this places for kids to have places to go, a place where these people could do all these different type of things, that integrates all these type of activities, that the borough actually is sponsoring events to integrate Staten Island. I don't think that the government actually does a good job in trying to integrate Staten Island.
Oh, hell no. On like this local level and the city level, where it's like our borough president, where I also, alright, before I go into that, I also think that Staten Islanders are afraid to speak up on the right things at times. Because sometimes there's some people that, some of the folks who do speak up, like you go on like SI Live or something like, or on Facebook, you'll see SI Live, you say something, and like you'll have some people who are mad vocal in a way where it's like, yeah, but why did this opinion is like, so deconstruct, like, you know, it's not really adding, where the people who really need to speak up need to just feel empowered. We need more people who feel like, who want to see that change, who want to see that progress, actually own their voice and say, this is my Staten Island too. Because I feel like a lot of people growing up here, remember I was talking about like the kind of inherent shame kind of thing being here, where it's just like, if you don't fall into like the quote unquote like, you know, mainstream narrative of Staten Island, you feel like you don't have ownership in a place that is your home. And fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, and local officials need to do better. Like, you know, like the borough president, they do, remember Back to the Beach?
No.
I see. Back to the Beach happens every year. You know, it's basically like a flea market. It's like a I don't want to see. I'm dissing it already. It's not. It's a outdoor event where they have different vendors. It's a market, and then they have performers, right, and bands. The bands and stuff that they have is just like dad rock and whatnot, and it's okay. And I get it because it's a general event, but that's an opportunity to showcase all our art vendors and whatnot. We be having somebody sell, people like who sell like old t-shirts and whatnot. You remember like, I remember back in the day, like old t-shirts and like, you know, like, you know, toys and bootleg toys at that, where it's just like, that is what some people like think of culture of Staten Island overall. You know what I mean? Where it's a disconnect, because one of the biggest events on Staten Island is the New York Car Show, where it's just like, word, a car show. You know what I mean? And it's like, and that's dope. But it's like, that's one of our biggest fun, like, you know, biggest booms at Newdorp and all that. It's like, when there can be more. And people think that just because, and I've seen this in the nonprofit sector where, and it's like, I'm glad I kind of got away from that mentality. It was like, just because you're saying that I think things could be better, and I think that we can have a better quality of life, that there can be improvement, that we can have access to more, it doesn't discount the work and hard work that people are already doing or have done. In Staten Island, people like, but what about? And it's like, yo, chill. Two things can be true at once. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's tough. It's just tough because a lot of people's mentalities are really messed up as well. You know, we haven't gotten to the point where people are just doing more and feeling like they can be doing more. Like the mentality on Staten Island is real, like, I'm gonna just talk my shit because I can and it's free.
Yeah.
That's how it feels like when these people on Staten Island be talking. It's not because they really are gonna talk and then actually do something about it. So I think we gotta get to that point where we're talking about stuff and then we do something actually about it to make actual real change and actually care about stuff. I don't think also Staten Islanders really know how things work.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of have a bunch of opinions with no real ideology of how things actually work.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Do you think that Staten Islanders trust each other?
No.
Right?
At all.
Yeah. What would build trust, in your opinion?
What would build trust? I guess some events would build trust.
Mm-hmm.
Having somebody that people across the borough respect speak up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would you say is the most respected voices on Staten Island?
I think that the most respected voices on Staten Island would happen to be... We're talking about across the board, right?
Across the board.
Across the board, like all Staten Island's kind
if
of...
they spoke up, everyone would sit back and listen.
I think that, like, if... Honestly, like Wu-Tang, if Wu-Tang spoke up,
that's it.
And like, you know, in a way that is, and I feel like our culture bearers, like, you know, like if Wu-Tang spoke up, if Ingrid Michaelson spoke up, Pete Davidson, the Practical Jokers, any famous people that live here on the low, because we got those people that using that's like,
Bloomberg.
You know, yeah, out here driving up our property value, but then they just like, yeah, fuck Staten Island. Meanwhile, they living here.
Four corners.
All those people in Tottenville, not Tottenville, in Toe Hill, like, you know, those wealthy people. But I feel like if those people on arts and culture really spoke up, just because, again, they have influence, and I mean in a real way of like, we need to fund Staten Island, you know, in a way that's like, Staten Island needs to be unified, where I understand for some of them, they don't want to toe that line either, or they have tried and it may have not been the most constructed, but I think that those are the people. I think that it has to come from folks who are, I think it has to be a group effort. I think it has to be a group effort of like respected individuals that aren't necessarily political, because people aren't going to trust it, because it's going to feel like selling a message, you know what I mean? And selling a product in a way that, and here's the thing, that's not necessarily bad, but part of it is just like, when it comes from politicians, we're not gonna, it's just like, all right, you're gonna be elected and you're not gonna follow through. Or it's like, they do speak to us like that. And it's just like, yeah, but are you double speaking? This doesn't feel like it's meant for me. You know what I mean? So I think that'd be really important. Theo Russi, fucking my man's, what's his name from Power?
To Lil Tariq.
Yeah.
Michael Rainey Jr.
Yeah, yo, he just dropped the album too. He produced the album, like Joey Wolf or something like that. Where is 22? Where he produced it, yo, they got a photo in front of John's Deli. It's hard as the album cover. Where again, you know what I mean? You got people out here doing shit who are on. Like, I think it's kind of just like really coming together from on that end. I think it's starting a campaign where it's just like, because more people feel this way than not, and allowing folks to feel like they can, that they can also represent, that they're represented, and that they can also be a part of the campaign, you know, in a movement, but it has to be decentralized. You know what I mean?
Do you feel Staten Island's too old?
In what way?
Like the population. Like I feel like Staten Island is an old place to live. Like it's not meant for the youth in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and it's only getting older. Like I think the median age of Staten Islanders is somewhere in the 30s. But again, part of that is by design. We're a college town, low key.
I've been saying this for years.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
I've been saying this for years. I'm like,
you get it?
It's supposed to be like,
it's supposed to be popping.
A movie. It's supposed to. You got CSI, Wagner College. You had St. John's before it closed down.
No, it's still there. People just can't live there.
No, they're closing down St. John's.
They closed down it completely. I thought they like, oh shit. See.
You know what I mean? So if we would have maximized the fact that we have all these colleges here and really gave them the resources and the venues and the spaces to do things.
I will say this though. Also, again, is Staten Island not fucking with Staten Island? Because I had the opportunity to talk to somebody in St. John's, right? I knew a professor there. I ain't gonna say all that stuff because I don't want to put him on wax in that way. Where I went to, like, you know, I spoke to these students and they would tell them, and I was like, you know, I did this like talk about like just Staten Island. Do you know that like, all right, so they had a class, like, you know, those classes like freshman year in college where you're just like, all right, this is like, you know, it's just like, all right, you gotta explore, to go to museums. It's just like we're gonna
freshman year experience.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to culture you, credit. You know what I mean? So one of those classes, and they would bring people into the city, like, you know, help them get to the city, go all these shows and all that. But and have the shuttle bus to the, like, you know, to the ferry. Do you know that they were not in that program, not talking to, like, going to Staten Island institutions? Do you know how hard it is to get Staten Island, like, colleges to fuck with our cultural institutions, getting volunteers and stuff from there? It's really hard. So it's just also like, a lot of these places are on their bullshit, though, too. Where it's like, but again, they can slip through the cracks. Because who's going to talk about it? Because in Staten Island, people don't want to be people don't want to, like, you know, fuck up their bag either by speaking up and speaking out, because it's just like, oh, well, you know, now I can't work with that institution because I was like, you know, speaking up about this. And some places benefit from that. Like, you know, some though too I want to bring in the conversation. It's like Staten Island being disorganized like this, someone has always made money from it.
Oh, of course. There's money in poverty and chaos. We know
exactly.
That.
Like, you know, and so it's a safe bet for those people that make money off of disorganization out here. And it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, it was gonna be popping, but like, it fell through. And then it's just like, yeah, but where are the receipts? I don't know. You know what I mean? Staten Island's a lot of, where's the receipts? I don't know. Who owns this? I don't know. But they get a tax write-off.
Yeah, there's no way of holding people accountable on Staten Island.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that with it being like how, like, you know, we don't keep opportunities for our youth. We export it. We export our talent. You know what I mean? We export our workforce because, like, again, we have CSI, we have Wagner, and then like there's and we've had people move in to Staten Island for these experiences. You know, and we had St. John's, where part of it is that we're not even giving them opportunities to work on Staten Island and be a part of our workforce. Think about how, and you know, you're a Harbor boy, where it's like, in all along the North Shore, and even along the, like, you know, along the South Shore though too, there's so much maritime business, but yet we don't know, like, people don't talk about how to get into that industry. Where it's just like, we don't invigorate our economy in an efficient way. We invigorate it in a way that is just like, how can I work for the city? How can I have a pension? How, like, you know, where it's like healthcare, like, you know, being city workers, a teacher, and then hospitality, nonprofit, and if you fall into anything else, good luck.
You're broke.
Yeah, that shit's whack.
You get no money. It's like no money out here, bro.
And then you go into the city. You know what I mean? You leave, you export, you don't spend, and then you don't spend your money here. It doesn't circulate, and we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But then we expect things to change as a city, but yet we're not really investing into our own. You know, and then people make it seem like it's far fetched when you want to see change on the island. Then they do whataboutism, like, you know what we really need, and it's just like two things can be true at once. You know what I mean? You think it's old?
I think Staten Island's old. I think everything you said about Staten Island is correct. I think there's no industries here, especially if you want to bring the youth here. Like, why would they want to come back home to Staten Island after they leave for college? What is here for them? I've been saying this for years. Like, what is here for young Staten Islanders who went to college, got degrees, did stuff, left the borough, came back? Like, why? Like, if it wasn't like for me when I came back home, I worked in so many different non-for-profit organizations. I did a substitute teacher thing. Yeah. I did all this traditional Staten Island jobs that paid decently, and I couldn't survive on that.
Yeah.
I had to leave the island and go get a job off the island just to be able to make ends meet for real. And that's sad. It's like I have a whole borough and I can't get a good job. I gotta work at Costco.
Bro, I say that all the time. And like, you know, my girl be laughing at me. Where it's just like, I'm an office bitch, bro. I ain't even gonna hold you. I've been working in the office for a minute. I ain't trying to stand up and have somebody tell me when I could go and can't go to the bathroom. I'm sorry. I'm at a different point of life now, you know, where it's like after working all these offices and just also like skill set where Staten Island will have you out here undervaluing your skills because we need so much, and people will see you for being talented at what you do, these organizations, businesses, and they will suck you dry and be like, oh, if you don't know your value and you really providing next level like value, you better be careful out here because people will be like, yo,
we need you to do this. We need you to do that. Can you do this? Come to this meeting. Come to that meeting.
Yeah, bro.
I start getting involved, bro.
You gotta be careful. And then it's just like, you're right. Like for a long time, and I was saying, like, you know, it's been a minute since I said this. It's like, I feel like the most underserved, like, you know, demographic in Staten Island is about like 18 to about 35.
Definitely.
Where it's just like, and that's a huge gap, you know, because again, after college, you know, fuck it, after high school, you know, and then up until like, you know, your 30s, if you don't have a family and you like, yeah, I want to really like invest here, you know, and just like stay on the island and I'm looking for things to do. I like to go out and have a good time with my friends. Sometimes I go dance. Sometimes I want to go like do, I don't know, mini golf or some whatever thing, pool, whatever. The quality of life here is kind of ass if you're not a family. You know what I mean? And then also if you're not kind of well off and where you may live. You know what I mean? Because it's like, and you want to know the crazy thing, Cletus? No matter where you live on Staten Island, the quality of life is kind of like, you know, it's kind of ass. Even the wealthier part of Staten Island, what the fuck is the youth doing? What do they have opportunities to do? Cultural institutions.
They doing drill too.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say Staten Island ghetto. All around Staten Island is hood. I don't care, like, cause you want to know something I think is hilarious.
They doing drill or playing baseball.
Oh my god, yeah. You really want to have the sauce? I show them. You know what I mean?
I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
Oh my god, yeah, bro. Because it's just like, no matter where you go on Staten Island, right? And I think it's hilarious. That's why I like when I see like certain comments like from South Shore folks in some areas where he's just like, because you know they love to go on Staten Island live and talk about the North Shore, about all this, wow, I can't believe this. But on the South Shore of the island, you be having true crime shit come up. You know, like I remember during the pandemic, this lady, rest in peace, they found this teacher body like chopped up in a storage unit, and it was just like, That's crazy. But also, it wasn't on the North Shore where somebody was just out here doing fucking hacksaw shit.
And they won't never talk about it on events if it happens on the South Shore.
Oh my God. And when
recently they started talking about what happens on the South Shore. Just recently.
Because it was like, damn, this shit ghetto. You know what I mean?
Beforehand, you ain't never heard nothing about what's happening on South Shore. You think it's South Shore of heaven.
Oh yeah.
Now they got an opioid crisis and they can't hide it.
Exactly. Like, it's just like, if you want to talk about the quote unquote negative things that in some areas are real because it's just fucking America. There's drugs on every shore of the island, and this crime that happened on every shore of the island. Motherfuckers living in the 80s down there with wealth. And then it's just like, and then part of it though too is just like, it's sad because we have more in common than not, but people allow, on both sides though too, allow discrimination to run rampant. But I will say, here's the difference. People on, like, the North Shore, some of the East Shore, definitely the West Shore, like, West North Shore, like, are way more acceptance of people of all colors and creed than people down yonder. You know what I mean? Because it's just like people, like, that's what, like the thing I was saying before about, like, you may be the most progressive, like, you could be the most progressive white liberal, just for everybody. And you move to the heart of, like, I don't know, let's say Altonville, right? Depending on who your neighbors are, where I live in Duncan Hills right now, just down the block, there's a dude that got, like, the fucking Trump flags and all that. And it's just like, what is it? Go Brandon. Where it's just like, I know if I move say this imaginary person, move right next to him, put up a gay flag and say, like, free Palestine, because, like, free Palestine. But then also it's like, I support Ukraine. Or all the most progressive shit is just like, I love gay marriage. That person is knocking on that person's door like, excuse me, sir, I don't like how you're pandering. You know what I mean? So it's like, we just need to be able to get people who are like-minded and have, like, the real good intention and not in a pandering way to come together and actually build and be able to have common, converse in common place to be able to set up a plan, and not from a place of ego, but from a place of community. You know what I mean? Because too many people, like, I feel like, because something I've thought about though too, and like, I'm sure you probably saw it in nonprofit too, where it's like, there's some people who are executive directors and leaders who want it for the power, not for the change, and to be able to, like, not saying that they don't care. But it's just like, are you doing this for the power? Are you doing this for the mission? Are you doing this just to be popular? And some people want to lead because they just want to be in charge and have power. And then other people want to see progressive change. We need more people who want to see the change and be a part of, like, actually shifting shit to be towards the front, because there are people who are on the ladder that are just like, I want to be in the front just to be popular.
Oh, that's most of these people on Staten Island, bro.
Exactly.
They just want to be lit, bro. Bro, you see it in everything, bro. It's trash.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not the best people in the front anymore.
That's the shit that get me tight. You know what I mean? Because part of it on the real too is just like, I hate, one of the things that really get me tight is like, yo, there's a difference between being down for a community, holding a community on your back, and, like, really, even if you, like, may, like, fall into the cracks sometimes, but you here for everybody. And then there's people who are just down for their team and want to bring their team further. Here's the thing. Both are okay. Just be honest. Don't be like, yeah, I'm down for the city. And you really only down for your people. You know what I mean? That's a lie. You know? And it's like, yeah, everybody want to see their people eat. But it takes air out of the space for people who are actually want to see their entire city come up and be able to see other crews also go further. Where it's like, it's okay if you only want to be down for your crew. Also, at the same time, just don't say you down for everybody if you only down for yourself, And that's the shit that get me tight, because that's why we wear people out in these, like, for community-based work, and people get burnout and they don't want to do that kind of work anymore, because you'll get people who feel underappreciated but then also some of the people who aren't doing the best work, whether it's just like for profit or non-profit, on boots on the ground, whatever industry you may be in, there are people who are doing a lot of really good work that do not get the flowers and support that they need. And then they get burnt out and they can get resentful and jaded, and then you lost somebody who's really down for the cause that's replaced with 10 people who just want to be on.
Just want to have a job.
Yeah. So
let's talk about this album.
Mm-hmm.
All the lines in between.
Yes, sir.
What made you want to put out an album?
I've been wanting to put out this album for years. I've been working on this for 5 years. And like somebody asked me why so long, because like I learned a new instrument to make this. I wasn't in a rush. I wanted to actually be good at this instrument. Like I picked up the ukulele, and the reason why is that it's an island-based instrument, and I'm from an island. It just ain't tropic. Staten Island's still an island. It just ain't tropic. Nah, for real.
Take it to an island. It's not Staten Island.
Yeah, exactly. Because I be saying I'm from whenever I speak to people off the island, I be like, yeah, I'm from the island. They be like, oh, word? I'm like, yo, which one? I'm like, no, I'm not Jamaican. I'm not Haitian, anything. I'm from Staten Island. They're like, oh, and they look disappointed. But we are island. You know what I mean? Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's just like, I really wanted to incorporate it into my sound. Because I've been making music for like a while now, but I realized that my music wasn't connecting the way I wanted to connect, but then also part of it was like I wanted to challenge myself to learn something new, and that's what brought me to the instrument. And so this album ended up being very different than like, I just let it happen organically. It ended up turning into like a concept album, and really just like because I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so it's just like, as a body of work, I think it's an art piece to me. Yeah, it's music, but it's an art piece where it's just like, there's a thesis, there's an idea, there's there's a practice in a way where it's just like, all right, what was I trying to do? What was I trying to say? And it's all encompassing because like I produced it. Like, I had somebody say, and it's funny because like this person said something, and like I will always bring it up now, where it's like, I really like the sound of the acoustic guitar. Someone hearing what I'm doing on this album as acoustic guitar throws part of the entire thesis out. It throws it out because it's just like, all right, and that's okay. But it's like, no, there's a whole, like, if somebody challenges themselves, if an artist, like, out here, if I was like, to paint only, if I was to use only granite for a body of work, right? That's intentional. That's part of it. You know what I mean? It's like, if you take that away, you're just like, oh, well, I like the form of like, say somebody's making something, I was saying graphite. Like say graphite. Somebody's doing like paintings and not paintings, pieces in graphite, and it happens to be portraits of their life. There's a reason why that material was chose, and there may have been like a thought process behind, and it's also the commonality between it. So yeah, like, that's part of it.
I like Work the Trip.
You like that? Yeah.
I like Work the Trip. I thought it was clever. I thought it was really clever. That's
because you was taking the ferry for somebody, bro. Yeah. Who you taking the boat for, bro?
I ain't taking the boat for nobody.
Yeah, who took the boat for you? Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just happy to be here.
Bro, see, that's that's a common experience where it's just like, that's some real island shit, bro.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like Cosmos. I thought Cosmos was interesting.
Thank you.
When I listened to the album, it gave me like Panic at the Disco. It gave me, he was rapping a little bit in some of the songs. Folk music vibes.
Yeah. It's all over the place, influence-wise,
What made you want to choose these elements to the album?
So, to be real, and I'm actually really hyped that you said that, where it's like, because I wanted to incorporate, like, I've been making music since 2008, 2013. I was like 2018. That's crazy now. It's about 2013. And so getting on the music scene around like 2015, like 2014, being around the rap scene for a bit. And then I started like, you know, getting around the hip hop scene. And then I started getting really cool with people in bands. Excuse me. And so like getting on the rock scene a little bit, like the punk scene, the emo scene, and then knowing just folks from all over the scene. I know people who did folk, you know, R&B, emo, hip hop, trap, whatever. And like, I really wanted to try my best to incorporate the Staten Island sound in this. Okay. You know what I mean? And like my own interpretation of it in different ways, but also infusing my own elements from my own music style and develop my own kind of feeling, and just really kind of using those different styles to showcase the story of the ending of a relationship, going through all those feelings, being single again, meeting someone new, and you know, getting down dirty, maybe a little bit, having a good time, and then the person being like, nah, that's not what we doing. We're not doing this. And then realizing you got your own healing you got to do. And maybe you wasn't even really into that person, and that you still stuck on a person. You moving fast because you still processing a major loss. You know what I mean? And being able to really make my own mark in a way of like, I'm here. I'm here as a producer, as a musician, as a writer, as a rapper, as a singer, in a way of like fusing the different elements of what I've seen out here in my own interpretation with my own sound, if that makes sense.
Nah, it was definitely a very unique listen. At first I was kind of just taking it in like, okay, how do I want to approach listening to this? And when I just listened to it from top to bottom, I was like, this is different. This is nothing like I've ever heard before. And
hey,
it was like you said, it blended so many different musical elements that I was just like, why did he decide to put this album out and at this point? Because that's what really caught me off guard.
Yeah. So part of it too, it's like, after working on it for so long, I did not want to work on it another year, you know? And like I was telling one of my homies recently, like I could have put more of a, and I'm going to continue promoting it, marketing it, and I could have put more of a push behind it. But for me, it was important that this album came out in the fall. You know, it came out this year because I wanted to be done working on it, and that it came out in the fall because it's a fall album. It's not quite the winter. It's not quite this summer. It has its upbeat moments, but it also has its cool moments and cold moments where it's just like, where the fall is all about transitions, you know, and the album's about a transition between the end of like the journey itself, like, and going through those motions. And I just really wanted to finally get it out. I was supposed to be done a minute ago, but I'm not mad because I was able to really flesh out what I wanted and needed it to sound like.
Nah, I'm glad that you put it out. I think it's a really good body of work. What's your favorite song on the album?
That's really hard, but I think the most played song right now is The Difference for me. I love that. Like, because they're all different for me. Like, so why I listen to The Difference so much, and I might have to say that's my number one at the moment, is because I love house music, and I finally made a house song that I feel like is a good house song that from me, and instrumentally I'm proud of it. Like, you know, it feels like Daft Punk meets 808s and Heartbreaks with like Cuddy vibes, you know, and I just really, really fuck with that song. And yeah, it's like, it's basically a quintessential, all the recipe of a classic house track of like, insert person singing about heartbreak or something, or saying you ain't gonna do this to me, but then it mixes all of my favorite elements and is unapologetically of like, I used to go on MDXV, Mike Diverse, is unapologetically my style of house, of fusing like, you know, like my house, like French house with like garage, and not trying to be anything but my own style, but in a house, you know. And then I love Worth the Trip. You know, that's really one of my favorite songs because it's just like, I'm trying to make that a Staten Island anthem because it's so real. It's like if you're from here, you haven't dated anybody from here. It's just like, hey man, you meet somebody in the city and you having a good time, and then you like, you know, it's just like, oh, I'm from the island. They from and they. It's not always they try to front. So it's like, you know, it's like, oh, and sometimes they don't, but it's like we've been there, you know. That's like all those Friday nights in my early 20s where it's just like going out with the homies, going out just having a good time, being on like going on a 9:30 boat, coming back on a 2 o'clock boat, where it's just like having a good time. And I don't know, it's like it's probably that they're all different. There's all different reasons why I love all of them. So it's really tough, that question, you know, because then it's like no PDA for performing live. Everyone, that's such a fun song. Cosmos is special to me, you know. Yeah, so that's a tough question, to be honest.
So what's the difference between Mike Diverse, Jahtiek Long, and Sir Clifton?
So, for a long time, honestly, not too. I'll say my music persona is like you know, just the expression, but also part of it is exaggerated. It's like, you know, get to just express and emote through the music, where some of it is just like, you know, practicing songwriting, where it's like not all of it is me, you know, like my life, but some things I do put a lot of my own experiences into my work, but then also things that I've seen, you know, and sometimes it's just a good story, like, you know, like the Worth the Trip song, like I love that. I ain't meet no hazel-eyed brunette who was just like, yo, I'm gonna take the boat for you. No, that, you know, but it would be nice. You know? That would be nice. You know what I mean?
It would be nice.
That would have been nice at that time. You know what I mean? When I was single. So it's just like, oh yeah, if somebody directly said those words, do I have people were there people in my past that have taken a boat for me? Yes. But no one has ever said, I'll take the boat for you.
I have had someone take the boat for me, and I fell asleep, and they got stuck here.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a horror story. That's why people be afraid to come to Staten Island.
It'd be like that sometimes.
What borough was they from?
Bronx.
Damn, see, now that's crazy.
I was waiting for them for a minute, though, but I was tired.
That's because it took like 4 hours.
Yeah.
No, that's at least like 2 hours.
Yeah, it was bad, but I went up. I made it up to them by going to the Bronx.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, uptown. You're going uptown.
I went all the way by Yankee Stadium. It was deep.
Damn.
Yeah, it was
damn.
Deep. And they had gotten seasick from being on the boat.
Jeez. See, exactly. You get it.
It's worth the trip.
It's worth the trip. Worth the trip. So like, I think part of the difference for me is like, the distinction is Mike Diverse. Like, I still like, you know, gonna produce under the MDXV production tag, because it's just like I still like it, and just separation for me, it's all connected. It's just that I think it, because like I do a lot of things, I've always wanted to keep my government name for art and like those type of things, like, you know, and music, I enjoy having it kind of have its own life, where it's a part of me, but have its own life, because it's like, I think people try to box you in when you have so much under one specific name as a person, and it's just like, I can't be good. You know what I mean? It's like, he does this, where it's like, it allows people who have no idea what I do, and like, you know, my art and the visual side of my practice, or the event side of my practice, to just discover that it lives there. It'd be cool if they fuck with both, but I like to have that distinction so people still front, but it makes it easier for people to digest it in a way, if that makes sense.
So what's next for Sir Clifton, Jahtiek Long, Mike Diverse?
Yeah, so I'll say what's next is really just shows. My big goals for next year is to I'm gonna do it. Is to play in other boroughs, to play across New York City, because I haven't really played out too much over there, and to give all the homies and the people that have, like, you know, the supporters that I have like throughout like the city, opportunity to see me, because like some of my friends are just like, yo, you always only perform on the island, and it's kind of deep. And so I want to make that more accessible and to be able to meet new people and like to play out this album, get this album to like 300 at like by the end of the year, by like 300 sales, you know, and I'm gonna keep going to see how far I can go, because that's a real number and nobody can take that away from me, because that means that no matter if people, whether they fuck with the music or they fuck with me as a person, that's people like, you know, supporting and investing, and people can't take that away. And it's time when people try to talk about, alright, so this got a little bit rapper vibes real quick though too. It's just like when the time when people want to talk about numbers and all this aspect, show me people putting money into you. Show me people investing into you. You know what I mean? Because it's like sometimes I feel like sonically, and I've realized this with this album, that like for some folks who like, you know, depending on when they have met me, they think this is my first album. You know what I mean? First project, or like, you know, that I've just been like, you know, like why it took so long, where it's like it's all interconnected. I got more than one asset when it comes down to my skill set, where you're not gonna front on what I do. And so I'm gonna let that talk as well. Even if I may not have the biggest streams and whatnot, but so far what I've been able, like, you know, for $10 a pop for those albums, right now I'm at like 127. That's about like, you know, where I'm really proud of it. And also if I was to convert that number into streams, that's like 300K streams. That's how much I would have got if I had 300K streams. So what does that mean? You know what I mean? What's that metric? So, and I'd rather build a real organic following anyway. So what's next is to double down. I'm trying to get into art shows. The Cletus, since I've known you, the MO's been the same on my end. I'm trying to do dope shit. I want to get my work out there, and I want to really push it, you know. Also get my license. On some real shit though.
Have to get the license.
I know.
Have to get the license.
So I can be driving around, and then I can make lines where I'm just like, they see me in the whip. You know what I mean? I can't do that now. I'm lying.
They see me on the bus.
Yeah, bro. They see me on the boat. You know what I mean? That's why I take the ferry. That's it.
He's how old do you like the ferry?
Yeah, it said cross the bridge. You know I was on that 79. I was in drive.
Goodness, not the same. Nah. Yo, that's funny as hell. If people want to follow you, find you, stream your music, where can they go to do that?
They can follow me at Sir Clifton 718 and at Jahtiek Long JAHTIEK LONG, and all the lines in between on all streaming platforms. And you can also purchase a digital copy on my Bandcamp if you want to support the artist directly, which is me. It goes a long way, because as a independent artist, actually I'll say, be honest, last month them album sales helped pay my rent. So yeah, holla at your boy, and you know, and it goes to a real place. You know what I mean?
Perfect. And like I said, you're tuning in to Talk Ain't Cheap. Thank you to everyone who's enjoying this episode. Make sure that you follow the brand at Talk Ain't Cheap Network. Immaculate Love Show comes out every Sunday. And like I said, you're tuning in to Talk Ain't Cheap. It's your boy Cleese will talk, and it's not that deep. It's a vibe.